Sir, if I can get your thoughts on Prime Minister's interview to the PTI, he's laid forth very clearly the vision that he has for the country. He's even gone on to mention about the cyber threats which must be taken very seriously in today's times.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the chairman of G20, which is holding its session in September 8, 9, 10 in New Delhi, has articulated the subject very well. And his interview to the Press Trust of India, the news agency, is very significant. The reason being, my understanding, Madam, Prime Minister wanted to get these type of messages like fake news, space war, cyber terrorism, and also Indian political system. And that is why he was addressing to the audience of G20 countries. And these are all certain focus which he may address in the presidential speech in G20 in New Delhi during G20 conference before President of America, Mr. Biden, and other senior leaders. So my understanding is he has started to give this interview because of two reasons. One, the country is very celebrating mode. The entire New Delhi is ducked up. The amount of festivity season, because India is the rare opportunity of bringing G20 as the chairman, Narendra Modi. The interview to PTI is very significant, and also his focus on space terrorism, cyber terrorism are two important subjects. That is why the fake news narrative also he touched upon.
And Samiksha joining us there. And going across now, joining me on the broadcast is Senior Executive Editor of Republic TV, Abhishek Kapoor. Abhishek, it's over to you to continue this conversation.
Mr. Rajgopalan, if he's still there and not disconnected. Mr. Rajgopalan, it is clear that the Prime Minister wants everyone to see G20 developments. I think the Prime Minister, by giving an interview on G20, wants everyone to focus their positive energies on this big global event of diplomacy that's happening in New Delhi, and to cut the negativism that was coming in from the opposition space.
Yes, opposition is intended to have negativity only in India because the opposition is derailed. My understanding is, since Mr. Xi Jinping is not attending the G20 and Mr. Putin is not attending the G20, maybe at the instance of opposition parties, because China is very dear to the heart of Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Rahul Gandhi always talks about China because of his enmity with, Adani, etc. So that's what Prime Minister wanted to focus it on in the international level. As you put it, Abhishek, it is a very, very interesting thing because only last month he was in a Quad meeting. He went to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting. So therefore, international fora, including the International Monetary Fund, which rated India in the third, much ahead of Britain. So therefore, these are all certain achievements of Mr. Narendra Modi for the past 10 years. That is why he has articulated in the PTI interview. But for G20, his message is, like as he has been telling from the Red Fort of Red Fort, Amatkal, for G20, Mr. Narendra Modi's vision is cyber terrorism, space terrorism, and also the fake news. So these three are going to be his focus because in the international diplomacy, Abhishek, you know very well that India stands very tall. India stands high. Even the ordinary passport holder in India, when he lands up in USA or in UK, they are given best treatment. It was not there during UPA regime because India was treated as a corrupt country. But for the past 9 years, Mr. Narendra Modi has risen that level of India to the highest position. That is why India is respected. India is given a chance for G20. It's a very celebratory moment, Abhishek, for India to preside over G20 meeting. And that is being held in New Delhi from 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Joe Biden is coming, and that is also a turning point.
Yeah, also, Mr. Rajgopalan, I think with the kind of careful choice of words, Prime Minister has delineated a very positive, constructive agenda. In fact, one would say a very technical, focused agenda on some issues which really impact national security, which impact exchange between nations which impacts security of civil society. So I think the Prime Minister is saying the G20 is not about politics. It's about hard facts. It's about hard diplomacy, and it's about substantial issues and important achievements. So I think what he's saying is that don't take it lightly. It is important. Don't make politics of it. Don't bring in negativity. Just focus on this big event that's happening in New Delhi.
That is right. That is right. Abhishek, can I tell you one thing, very interesting thing to Republic viewers? If you permit me, Abhishek, I will say that.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Abhishek, for the last 2 months, Mr. Narendra Modi has been saying about artificial intelligence. And that is why even in Indian budget, he has given extreme importance for artificial intelligence. But the say in which Mr. Narendra Modi articulated with the U.S. Secretary of State when she met Mr. Narendra Modi, he said artificial intelligence, AI, is America and India. So
yeah, absolutely. So I think
Narendra Modi sees in the digitalized world for another 10 years as we have succeeded in establishing the space research like Chandrayaan, like Lunar, like everything. Therefore, Narendra Modi focuses for 20 years hence, what to 2047 would be, when Amrit he is extending it to the G20 countries. Let us think big. That is why Mr. Narendra Modi is thinking big. In 10 years before, even Congress was heckling Mr. Narendra Modi about digitalization, and a vegetable vendor cannot pay the money in a Paytm or Google Pay or for that matter Phone Pay. So even at the international conferences, any leader coming to Narendra Modi and asking Mr. Narendra Modi how you have digitalized revolution in India. Even a vegetable seller is giving the money on a digital age platform. So therefore, Narendra Modi is for digitalization. Narendra Modi is for artificial intelligence. Narendra Modi is for to counter cyber terrorism and space terrorism and digital terrorism.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, thank you so much, Mr. Rajgopalan. The fact that Prime Minister has chosen very carefully to speak to an agency and focus on the constructive, positive aspects of G20. I think he just wants that the nation should stand united, and when 25 heads of state, heads of government are going to be in New Delhi, there should be no, politics on this very important issue when the whole world is looking at solutions to global crisis, and India has played a very constructive, positive role on it. And on that note, I thank Mr. Rajgopalan and hand it over back to the studios.
Abhishek, just a quick follow-up question. Talking about a Prime Minister's detailed interview to the PTI, he's spoken about the irresponsible financial policies. Do you think, in a way, the Prime Minister has spoken about the debt trap of China, which has led to probably a lot of nations being at the receiving end? All right, we seem to have lost that connection, but to quote again what Prime Minister has said in his detailed interview to the PTI, he says that irresponsible financial policies, populism, may give short-term political results but create social, economic price in long term. Not just this, the Prime Minister says that poorest and most vulnerable suffer the most from irresponsible financial policies and populism. Just to take a recap of Prime Minister's key excerpts from the detailed interview to the Prime Minister, he says he's in fact called for global cooperation in fighting cyber crimes, saying that fake news can cause chaos and that it can be used to fuel unrest, which is why the need of the hour is to take cyber threats very seriously. So that's a strong word coming in from the Prime Minister when it comes to tackling cyber threats, saying that this issue must be taken quite seriously as it has a lot of serious implications. Not just this, the Prime Minister has laid out his vision for the country and for the global south as well. As India gears up to host the G20 summit, the Prime Minister says that India will be in the top 3 economies of the world in years to come by 2047. Not just this, the Prime Minister has spoken about dialogue and diplomacy, which is the only way to resolve conflicts. Remember, diplomacy and dialogue is something which India has always pitched when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war as well. The Prime Minister very categorically mentioning that dialogue and cooperation as well as diplomacy is the key when it comes to resolving conflicts.